While Jeff's getting all his tech organized, I want to say hello to everybody else and welcome you to the call. So this is our monthly Beyond Coaching experience, and we've been focusing this year on trust, um, and we'll continue to do so through the end of the year. And then we've got some new things planned for next year. And the focus um, is on trusting others for now and for this sort of block. And then we'll have one more trusting sequence towards the end of the year. These are sort of experiential sessions. We don't do a lot of teaching really, although you might end up learning some things, but um, where it's mostly just to give us a flavor for what life is like beyond coaching and the chance to just have some direct experience. We use the same practice each month. So some of you will be veterans at this. Um, but we're going to use it to finish off this 4-month cycle, which I will share about in just a minute. So I want to welcome all of you, both familiar faces and those of you who are joining us for the first time. Karen, our wonderful Karen is our hostess, and so if you have any questions come up, just flag us down and/or put anything you would like in the chat box as we go along. So let me just go ahead and share the slide so we can begin. Now with this one. There we go. So here we go. Yeah. So we always sort of get a little bit of orientation in the beginning, particularly for those of you who are joining for the first time. Like I said, our overall theme is trust for this 4-week block or 4-month block where it's about trusting others. And we're at the end of that sequence. And so you'll see what that means in just a minute. But our focus for today is about letting flow. Often is expressed as letting it flow, but then that presumes there's an it. And so we just removed it from the equation and just letting ourselves let flow happen. So we always have sort of one question which kind of orients us for the conversation. And these days, there's a lot of jagged edges in life these days, amongst other things. And so sometimes during our day, with a lot of distractions and demands and things on our mind and heart, it's hard sometimes to even find flow, let alone to feel like we're in it. And so part of what we're going to focus on for today is to look at what would help you surrender more fully to allow yourself to be more in flow. And so just to kind of orient you, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is what we've done so far. We sort of did a little riff on the George Floyd moment about I can't breathe. And so we began to sort of in honor of him and all that stood for, to begin to look at um, how is our own breath doing? And what would it be like to start trusting ourselves and others to allow ourselves to breathe more easily and breathe more fully? I notice myself holding my breath a lot these days. So I've stopped not watching the news for a while just so I can breathe again. So we're going to focus on letting it flow. It's the last part of our cycle. It matches the last phase of narrative coaching. And my hope is that through the course of our time together, that you might notice some releasing of your breath. And I will sort of, is the sort of nucleus of our guided practice. So this is a slide we have every month. This is a way of returning to this. So particularly for those of you who are new, just encourage you to read this. For the rest of you, just to remind yourself. However you stand, most of us won't be nearly as experienced as the woman on the screen, but we're going to find our own version of this. And the tagline or the headline in the slide is actually kind of the core mantra of one of our new programs next year. And it's the whole idea of, rather than having to study lots of curricula to prepare, we're actually going to use the moment that we're in to notice what it's inviting us to pay attention to notice, to learn, And so that will come in really handy when we do our practice, because there'll be moments during the practice where things might reveal themselves to you. You might discover something. And so this will be a way just to remind us just to stay open to see what's trying to show itself to us. So I want to just sort of get us ready for our practice. So we're going to borrow one of our integrative development slides to kind of get us ready. And then I'll give you sort of some guidance for our practice. So I'll let you read this piece from Alan. So I'd like to just sort of share an example from my own life, just to explain what this looks like in practice and how it relates to flow. So I've spent a lot of time in a kayak, particularly ocean kayaks, particularly in the Puget Sound and British Columbia region, also in Mexico. And as part of that practice, I took a class once in a cozy swimming pool to learn how to do what's called an Eskimo roll, to roll a kayak if you ever get tipped over. And the class there's probably a half a dozen or a dozen people, and probably equally divided between men and women. And pretty much, I think every woman learned how to do that faster than the men. And the woman who was teaching just kept laughing at us men. And she kept trying to explain to us men, this is not a contest of strength. This is not an upper body workout. This is all in your hips. And most men often struggle to recognize they even have hips, let alone to know what to do with them. And whereas the women who most of them had no hope of muscling their way forward, um, but often were better at things like dance and yoga. After a few tries, kind of got the hang of it. And many of the men, we just struggled and struggled, and a few of us made it eventually, but darn near tore our shoulders out. And so again, we were trying to effort. We were straining to try to make the boat do what we wanted it to do, not realizing that our hips would quite easily work with the boat to turn the boat over. It's not that complicated actually once you can actually come from a more relaxed center and stop your efforting trying to make the boat bend to your will. And so part of the flow is about surrendering, allowing ourselves, finding the points of leverage, getting rid of over efforting where it's actually not useful at all, to begin to find sort of paths of grace, paths of flow, um, uh, and so that's my sort of preparation for our practice. Um, yeah, so I wanted to see if that brings up anything so far for anybody you'd like to share or ask about, and then we'll give you the instructions for our practice. And then the bulk of our time will be an opportunity for you to be in dialogue with each other about your experience in the practice. But for now, is there anything anybody would like to share? Oh, good.
The
All
chat
right.
is clear.
Uh, okay, wonderful. Then, given that, we'll move into the practice. So, so I'm just going to read this to you because I want to explain a few things, and then we'll do the practice. So, the rules of engagement are the same every time. So, observe yourself, care for yourself, speak for yourself. So, again, there's no contest, there's no destination, there's no right way to do this. Your invitation is to have the experience you need to be having, and or to surrender to the experience that wants to have you. Um, yeah, so we're going to invite you to think about an area or situation in your life or your work where you have this sort of sense. It might even just be a dim sense or a beginning sense that something is calling you or something is challenging you. It might have come from a specific encounter, or it might just be sort of this nagging feeling that something's changing or needs to be changing. So I'm just going to give you a minute of quiet, and I'm just going to let you just sort of relax a bit in your chair, take a few deep breaths, and see what comes into your mind's eye that might want your attention today. All right. We'll let Betsy in. All right. So now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put out one of your hands. It doesn't matter, whatever ones you feel drawn to put out in front of you. And I would like you to imagine that whatever came up to your mind eye can fit in your hand. So it can be there symbolically as a word, an object, a story, a sensation, anything that sort of captures the spirit or the essence of whatever you brought to your mind's eye. But making it tangible, it might even have weight. Like maybe your hand will get tired after a while. You might need, so whatever happens, just bring something into your hand that sort of represents what came to your mind. We'll let Christopher come in here. And so here's what I'm going to invite you to do as we're moving through the practice that's about to start. So as we're moving through the breathing practice that's coming, I want you to really, well, I'll guide you through the four steps, but I want you to imagine that there's like a wind blowing through you from the back of you, through you out to the front. And so the invitation and one of the points of attention I'd like to draw you to in our practice is imagine that behind you is what I would think of as the universal breath. It's like a tailwind, right? And so part of learning to trust others is relaxing ourselves so that we can actually allow ourselves to be carried by others or pushed along by others or supported by others. And so this one of the ways is just sort of noting how comfortable am I imagining this sort of sense of universal breath, whatever that means to you, kind of moving through you back to front. And can you allow yourself to be held by that, to stay centered as you're moving through this practice? Um, and so we'll come back to the fourth piece here, but the hope is that through doing this, you'll be able to actually find and feel flow, not to magically solve your problem or make it go away, but to actually be with it or see it or experience it in a new way that actually allows you to see what's it here for. Okay? All right. So I'm going to just invite you then, unless there's any questions at the moment, just to close your eyes. Karen, I'll let you just let me know if somebody's got a question in the chat box or a hand up. Okay. But otherwise, I'm going to just invite you just to remember that back to front breathing and just close your eyes and allow yourself to settle into your chair or wherever you're sitting or standing. This may prove easier if you're to sit down if you can, but so can just begin by noticing how you're arriving. Just if you did a quick body scan from your toes to the top of your head, what would you notice? Is there any part of you that would like a little bit of extra love and warmth and care right now to allow yourself to relax and be more fully here? So we're going to start by just allowing you to take a breath in and whatever you find resources you. Could be a religious figure, it could be a favorite place in nature, it could be your favorite food or person. Just kind of allow yourself to kind of bask in the glow of imagining this sort of nourishing you as you begin this journey. Give you a little bit of extra scaffolding. And maybe you can feel yourself relaxing even further with this extra support. And as you do so, I'd like you to really focus on breathing out. But as you're breathing out, I'd like you to again imagine that breathing out is not just out in the front of you, it's actually coming through you. Notice what happens to your body and your mind as you breathe out. As you do so, gently bring what was ever on your mind that you're now holding in your hand to be more present to you. Do you have a sense of what's being asked to be released? What needs to be let go so you can actually hold or be with this in a new way? If it's heavy, what would it allow it to be lighter? And all the while, just really draw attention as you're breathing out to your back. Can you allow it to relax? Can you allow it to feel nourished? Can you allow it to feel light so the breath moves through you as you breathe out? And as you do this, you might notice your body relaxing. And if you relax and breathe out and let go, is there something that needs to be composted here so you can be in flow? Maybe it's something that you're carrying that you don't want to anymore. Maybe it's something that isn't yours to carry at all. What can you compost so that energy can be freed to allow you to be more fully in flow? And this is the path to maturity, the releasing of our grip on something, the releasing of something that is holding our breath back so it doesn't breathe out fully. So just pay attention if anything changes as you allow yourself to compost anything that doesn't allow you to be in flow. That makes it more difficult for you to resolve or address whatever's in your hand. And if at any point in the process something's not clear, you can do one of two things: check your own body or consult with the object in your that you imagine's in your hand. Ask it what it needs. As you do this, we're going to move now to begin to breathe with. Breathe with whatever has emerged now that may not have been there before, or maybe wasn't as clear before. What is it you're being invited to see or feel or notice now that you've composted something that might have been in the way? And again, how can you relax your back and just let it be? Whatever you're being asked to breathe with, how can you let it just be? And again, you might notice that whatever's in your hand changes or shifts somehow. Maybe it becomes clearer as to what it is or what it stands for. How can you breathe with that, even if you don't fully understand, or even if you don't even like it? What's it doing there in your hand? And what's it allowing you to just be with? As you do so, we think about curate. What is the essence of this thing that you're now breathing with? This awareness, this sensation, this sense of what's unfolding in your hand. What is this about? And again, it's not about being able to identify it or articulate it exactly, because oftentimes these things are from the realm of mystery. It's a new awareness, a new glimpse, a new sensation or emotion. So again, we don't have to perfectly describe it yet, but just get a feeling for what is this breathing with bringing into my awareness, or what's it bringing into my story about what's going on, or my story about myself, particularly if it's allowing us to see more deeply about where we might need to trust others better or differently. Mm. As we prepare to move to the next phase, remember there's no effort here. This is all about allowing ourselves to be of no mind in a way, open and sensitive in all directions to see what emerges. As we just notice yourself now as we move into our third phase. Notice what might have changed already about yourself and or about this thing you were thinking about that's now in your hand. This for this piece, I'd like you to focus on breathing in. Like just see if there's more room now for you to breathe in, more ease, where your diaphragm's not straining, where your back is feeling supported and strong. So as you breathe in around your whatever you're holding on to, the release here is to let come. What's now available to you that might not have been before or not as much? What can you see or sense now and let come to you that you could not see or sense before? It might be a new image, it might be a new energy, it might be a new perspective on what you brought into this process. This is the phase in our process where we're starting to gather insight, maybe, and energy and maybe more clarity to start channeling what's wanting to come through me now that I've been able to do the breathing practice so far. This is a return from the more sacred space to more of the profane space back in your life. This is the ascent into mastery. It's an invitation to take advantage of what's emerged to see what you might want to be or bring or do differently when you return to the scenario you have in your mind's eye. What are you bringing with you? What's more available to you now that might have been before? And how can you use your in breath to keep resourcing yourself to be able to integrate that sensation and bring it with you as you leave the practice in a few minutes? For me, I notice that my breathing is easier now, even in guiding you through this. What do you notice about your breath now? For many of you, you might find it's easier. It's more of a sensation of being breathed by your own body, not efforting to breathe. So you get a sense for whatever's emerging for you, held with your in your in breath. We'll move to our fourth phase. This is the one we're going to focus on in particular for today. So as you imagine now, if this has been useful for you in a way or revealing for you in a way, you might notice that your lungs are a bit freer, maybe even a bit fuller, certainly perhaps more relaxed. And this sensation of like being almost like a windsock, the wind is just kind of coming through us from the back to the front. We're being held by this universal breath, this air that's all around us. It's not like we in our own little world are breathing on our own. If we were in the same room together, we would be breathing the same air. And so imagine that we're now, whatever has been happening for us in this practice over these minutes, imagine that it's breathing through you. It's bringing more oxygen, more energy, more clarity as you return to whatever you brought to this practice. And as you do so, the release here is about letting to flow. So I'd like you to imagine now that you can actually lean back a little bit. It's almost like you're being cradled by your breath, cradled by the air that's around you. How can you bring this sense of flow into whatever you brought to the practice? And if you allowed yourself to flow, what might be different now? And perhaps you might notice a sense that you feel a bit more centered now, less blocked by whatever was holding you were holding on to from before. And the value of the center is now the breath is in you and through you. You're coming to the whatever was on your mind before from a new, more centered place, hopefully. And the final closure for the activity is to be able to process the memory. How will you bring this into your system? Where do you notice this in your system? How can you help yourself bring this back into your life when you leave this practice? And if you've built a relationship with what you imagine you were holding in your hand, this would be a great opportunity to imagine it could actually speak to you. What would it say? What would it tell you or ask you or share with you to allow you to carry this with you when you leave the practice? So we'll just give you about another 30 seconds just to kind of bring this to a close in your own way, to notice or do whatever feels important to you, and then we'll bring this to an end. Right, so I'd like to invite you to come back to the room, and Karen's going to organize some small groups here, but in the meantime, and we'll put up the questions we would like you to take into your small group. But for now, I'll be quiet and I'll just give you a couple minutes just to notice yourself, take notes, do whatever you need to do to kind of capture for yourself what you're now bringing into the small group. We'll give you another minute. And Karen, would you put the questions from the new slide in slide number 9 in the chat? Do you have that, or I can do that if you can.
1 second, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. No, it's still the same one. Maybe I can do that.
Yeah, that's,
No worries.
sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm going to stop
I-
sharing so I can do that. No, it's all great.
Yeah,
Oops.
thought I had up that one.
That's okay. It was I changed it on you too close to the call. It's all great. So here we go. I'm going to put that in for everybody. There we go. Okay,
Thank
those
you.
space there so you can read them. Okay, all good.
And yes, Ina, that was a lovely practice.
Yes. Okay, so here's our questions. And I'll put it up on the screen for those of you like taking screenshots. There we go. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll put you into groups of 3 for um, about 40 minutes.
Okay.
Yep. And here's 3 questions. You're welcome to answer any or all of them, or make up your own if you've got a better one that works for your group and your stories. My only request is that you make sure everybody has a chance to talk and that you listen well to each other as witnesses. Otherwise, make the conversation be what you need it to be to, yeah. Are we all good to go, Karen?
We are good to go. Any last thoughts or questions from the group? No? Okay, we'll see you back here in 40 minutes.
All right. There we go. So we just spend the last bit of our time, we have about 10 or 15 more minutes, and just want to check in about your experience in your groups.
There's a lot of facial expressions going on here.
I know.
I'll mention something. I'd love to do that. Do we just chime in? I'm new. This is my.
You do.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I just want to mention an appreciation, David, that we all had in the end. I appreciated all the time in the room, but we were saying one of the things that draws us here is the fact that David, one person in the room had been studying under you for quite some time. And the two others of us were fairly new. And I'm almost finished with your narrative coaching book. So I'm understanding some, but of what you do. But one of the things that drew us all to you and what we all notice is that you're on your own maturing journey and open to gifting that to the community, not trying to stay solid in something that you created or wrote about before, but trying to continually evolve that. And this has been your messaging also. And so that to me is very life-giving. And those are the communities that I find I am drawn to as I mature myself so that I can bring to the world what's mine to bring to the world.
Yeah.
And so thank you for modeling that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, pretty much my entire teaching life has been one long road trip. I just stop and observe, take notes about what I observe, about humans, about life, about death, about all kinds of things, and then kind of try to organize it in ways that are useful to people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I tried three times to teach in universities, and I gave up because I thought I only want to teach things I've lived. Yeah. How about for others? What feels important to you about your time together with your new friends? Anna,
I
yes,
can
there you
go.
are.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
could see you looking for the button.
Yeah. We had a great time. I mean, we were all on the same page. I mean, even though we don't know each other, and we also have kind of similar experience with the meditation. And then we flew and we were coaching and being client all together. And I I felt like we explore something in common, that and we all had these aha moments, just by listening, by just asking those powerful questions. So I really enjoyed this. Um I'm getting a lot with me after this. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's basically.
Thank you. Hmm. Thank you for joining us, Susie. And oh, she's already hopped off. Jeff, you were on mute before, but I just wanted to say hello. It's good to see you again. I don't know if you can hear me now. Maybe not.
No, I can hear you. Yes, it's
Excellent.
I have a few images I need to share with you outside the class that you'll find quite amusing.
Okay, I look forward to that.
Continuing of our story.
There you go.
I'm no longer near where you like to kayak.
I'm actually in Amsterdam, so I'm not near there either.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to catching up.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, David.
Yes, Brenda.
Hi. Hi. What I wanted to say is that in that journey, one message coming from you, and we can have such different experiences. For example, my focus where I felt my the tension was my shoulders, and Stephanie, my shoulders, so I couldn't really release, stretch out my hands. But Stephanie had a completely different thing where she was able to feel hands outstretched on her back. To me, that was such a powerful thing, that we could have such different experiences, by just trusting the message and, being in flow as well. Yeah.
I think one of the humorous things about life is that most of us at times imagine that our lungs are two-dimensional. We forget they have a front and a back. We sort of think they're all just kind of right here.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
That our back is in a shell.
That's right. Yeah. Is it Emmeline?
Yes, it's Emmeline.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, David. I personally really appreciated the activity. It's funny because I wasn't expecting to. I wasn't imagining we were going to do this activity during this meeting. It's my first time with you guys, and just before I did a ritual about letting go of something in my life, and so that was a perfect timing. Like it just built on it. So it was very interesting because it started with a bowl of fire, and it became just running water in my hands, which was really interesting. And it was very great to share with my they're not here anymore, but Mary, oh yeah, Mary is here, and Arshid. how we could actually transform our challenges so easily and so fast by just using this kind of activity, for example.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
one of the purposes, just so for you as a new person, one of the purposes of these session has been for 25 years for me in the coaching space is I just keep trying to help coaching move beyond this tiny little box and imagine that so much else is possible. Like, so very few people on the planet would say that what we did was coaching, but for me, that's an irrelevant question. If that would be to be valuable for a client, I would do it in a nanosecond. And so part of it is been working a lot on this thing called the Five Maturities to begin to offer a new way of thinking about coaching, to get beyond the boxes that we keep putting ourselves in. Yeah, and then rather than trying to teach that, which is it's really hard to teach maturity. We just try to create these experiences, and we're doing another series of experiences starting in October with the Five Maturities. Again, I just find it a faster way, deeper way for people to discover for themselves what this work might mean. Yeah. So we have a few more minutes. Does anybody else feel inspired to say something?
Hi, I was just going to add in, it's my first time as well, David, and thank you to my lovely group and the wider group. I wanted to share that idea of breath being through us was so helpful to me because I've never been able to really come to grips with breathing exercises that are in and out, because in and out is like, well, is it deep enough? Is it fast enough? Is it shallow? Am I counting? What's going on? And for the first time, I was able to find a rhythm and an image of it going through me and back in. And it was amazing what I could invite back in then as part of that. So I think I've found a way now through this to engage with that. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
And your hand motions just really captured
Yeah.
that beautifully too.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah. Or maybe we'll end up a couple minutes early tonight. That's fine too. 90 minutes is a random number we pick, so this one may be perfect at 85 minutes. Yeah.
I'll just add on to Ina's.
Yes.
She was in my group. It was great. Is that you added the wind at our back, and you added the community. It's almost like the community, the world, the ecosystem, and me being a part of that instead of me just sucking something in and trying to, like. So there was it was multi-textured, and I found it powerful as well.
Yeah.
So
sometimes these days it feels like we're walking into a typhoon. It's in our face. And just if you've ever been around again infants, how often they just melt when someone's holding them from the back or cradling them. And I thought, wouldn't that be great if we all had that in our life? Somebody would just cradle us from time to time. Yeah. All right. Yes, Michelle.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. So
hello.
Good. What time of day is it for you now? I'm afraid to ask, Michelle.
It's only 6:30 in the morning.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No, it's nice and fresh.
Yeah, it's winter for you.
It is.
Yeah.
It was having putting your hand out and the changes that occurred with the breath even coming through. Like I could feel the change coming through my hands even. Like the air it was kind of like I was nearly molding something, not sure what it was. And it was just such a beautiful, I ended up ending with a hugging my hand in the end, like this nurturing. Because in the beginning it was a lot of, I don't even want to say what it is. It wasn't very good. And so in the end, this cute little nurturing in the back of my hand, like I was giving myself a hug just with everything that came through. It's just a beautiful moment. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Mm.
Hmm.
And folks, I put into the box, the link, the first link I put in there is to you'll find the recording for this. If you want to go back, especially nice for that guided visualization that David worked with us on. And if you have any questions, there is a direct link there. And of course, if you want to look at any of the other events that we have going on, for example, as soon as we hop off here, David is presenting the 5 Maturities, and one segment of that today. There's a series, and then that series will start over in a different way in September. So there's for those who are new, there's a couple of other ways to engage that are just the beyond coaching, as well as the 5 Maturities are 2 main ways that you can just join in just as you did today as easily. So thank you so much. It's wonderful to meet you and your expressiveness and your embodiment of everything that you said, even though you're in the Hollywood squares, as we would say it at times. But yeah, thank you. And thank you, David.
You're most welcome. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you again next time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Karen.
Well,
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.